Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. This is class 9, the ACI foundational course on how karma works. Thank you so much for coming back to these classes. So let's start out by setting our motivation for being here today. Why are you taking this course? Um, and what kind of seeds do you hope to plant in the time we have together today? Be very clear in your mind. Try to feel it in your heart. Sashi Puki Jukshin Mitok Tram Rira Bling Shi Nyinde Empadi Sangye Shindu Mikte Uwargi Drokun Namdak Shingla Chuparsho Idam Guru Ratna Mandala Kamnirya Jaya Mi Sangye Chiran Soki Chuknam Lam Changchu Pardu Dakni Kyapsu Chi Taki Jishe Gipe Sanam Ki Jola Pinchir Sangye Druparsho Sangye Chidang Suki Chuknam La Changchu Pardu Dakni Kyapsu Chi Daki Jishe Gipe Sanam Ki Jola Pinchir Sangye Druparsho Sangye Charan Soki Chuknam La Changchu Pardu Dakni Kyapsu Chi Daki Jishe Gipe Sanam Ki Jola Pinchir Sangye Druparsho. So, were there any questions from our last class together or from the readings or? Okay, so we'll just move on then. Today's class is mainly about um, the 5 immediate misdeeds. So you thought last class was depressing. This one is also a little depressing, but it's good for us to know these things because to know, you know, what to use special care to avoid doing, as the results will be horribly unpleasant. I think that's a little bit small. Okay. So say sam mepa ngapo. Sam mepa ngapo. That means the 5 immediate misdeeds. Sam here, with this spelling, it means interim. Me means there is no. And nga means 5. And what this means is that if you do one of these 5 actions in this life, you will be reborn in hell without having any other birth after this one. So it's the next birth after this one. So we're going to go through those. First, why they're called immediate. If you're doing the Tibetan on your homework, this is what you would give in the response. Geshe Michael did not share this in the class when he taught it, but I wanted you to have it here in this file. So if you are doing the Tibetan, or if you do the Tibetan in the future, you'll have access to that in Tibetan without having to try and figure it out from the reading. A little bit challenging. So anyway. So of those 3 types of, remember we went through the 3 times that karma can ripen in this life. It can ripen in the next life, or it can ripen in some life after that. So this would be the second one. It will ripen in the next life. So that doesn't mean there's not a bardo. There is a pardo. There is this state in between. And mostly the pardo is you are starting to take on certain characteristics of the type of life form that you'll be taking in your next life. So it's sort of, even though it's called the state in between, it's sort of more closely related to your next life than it is to your life that just ended. Okay. So these 5 are penjekile. Remember we talked last time about projecting karma and finishing karma. So this kind of karma ripening is a projecting karma. So the first one is called ma supa. Say ma supa. I love to see lips moving other than live translators. Ma supa. Ma, here, usually it means a negative. particle, but here it means mother. And supa means to kill. So to kill your mother. These are not given in order of severity, this list of 5, but it is the order in which they are traditionally given. So this is covered in your reading. Like, what if a woman conceives a child and then the embryo is transferred to the womb of another woman? Which one is considered the mother? And the text, the Abhidharmakosha text, say that it is the woman who conceived you. So even if you spent, all 9 months in another woman's womb, even if you were raised by another woman, it's this mother is considered the one who conceived you. And mainly, it's sort of interesting because they also talk about the particular suffering of a mother, of carrying an embryo and a fetus for all those months. And then they talk about the pain of giving birth. But not all mothers, at least the mother related to these 5 immediate misdeeds, is the one who conceived you, not necessarily the one who carried you in her womb. And as you might imagine, the next one is pa supa. Say pa supa. So that's killing your father. The third one is called dra chom supa. Say dra chom supa. And that's an arhat. Dra champa, a dra means enemy, and chom means to destroy. So another phrase for an arhat in English is enemy destroyer or foe destroyer. And it's what it's talking about destroying there is the enemy of your negative emotions. Once you remove them permanently, once you have destroyed them permanently, you are an arhat. You are outside of the cycle of suffering. You've reached nirvana. The fourth one is called Gendun Gi Yen Chepa. Say Gendun Gi Yen Chepa. Gendun Gi Yen Chepa. Gendun means Sangha. Sangha. There are 2 levels of Sangha. There's the community of monks or community here specifically, it is community of monks. Nuns, not a part of this one. And then there's Gendun Sangha, which is the community of those who have seen emptiness directly, those who have seen selflessness directly. So here we are talking about the relative meaning of Sangha or Gendun, which is the community of monks. And this is as opposed to a Gelong, which is a single monk, an individual monk, in Sanskrit, Dikshu. Yen means to divide or split up. And Chepa just means to do. So this immediate misdeed means to cause a schism amongst the community of monks, to split up the monks. Gendun, Gi, and Chepa. The fifth one is a bit more detailed in its name, and it's say Deshin, Shakpe, Kula, Nensem, Kitrak, Chimpa. Deshin, Shakpe, Kula, Nensem, Kitrak, Chimpa. Deshek means a Buddha. You usually see it written as Deshin Shekpa, Deshin Shekpa. And if you've heard the Sanskrit word Tatataka, that's how the Tibetans translated Tatataka, is Deshin Shekpa. You also see Dewarshek, which is a different Sanskrit word, Sugata, also refers to the Buddha. So Deshin Shekpa, in English, it's usually translated as one gone thus, or those gone thus. Dewar Shekpa means those gone to bliss. Dewar is bliss. Okay, so to the one gone thus, Ngensem Ki. So Ngensem means an evil intention. And Ki, with this spelling, with a sa at the end, means with. So with an evil intention, Chak means blood, and Chimpa means to draw. So altogether, to draw the blood of a Buddha with evil intentions. So a Buddha cannot suffer, but this one still is on the list. So there is a story in this sutra about the half-brother of Shakyamuni Buddha, who was very jealous of Shakyamuni Buddha. And he and others had tried to kill him, but nothing seemed to work. But then there is this story of his brother designed some sort of catapult to fling a rock at the Buddha, at Shakyamuni Buddha, and it hit his leg, and it made a small cut on his foot. It drew a little bit of blood. So in the Mahayana system, in the great vehicle teachings, this is described as a story, as a sort of play that the Buddha just allowed him to do this and pretended to have a cut and bleed because the Buddha can't suffer. But from the Abhidharma Kosha, it says, even though a Buddha cannot suffer, even just attempting to kill a Buddha is with evil intention. That's what attempting to kill would be. That's a serious enough deed that it will result in being born in the hell realms in the very next life. So now we're going to talk about some details about these 5, primarily about this one of dividing the community of monks. So doing any of the 5 will result in being born in a hell realm in your next life. If you do, which we cannot do actually, if we do the 4th one, splitting up or dividing the community of monks, the hell will be reborn into is Narme. And I think we talked about this earlier. It's the hell called Avicii. It's the lowest hell. It's the hell that has the longest lifespans. It's the hell that has the greatest sufferings. You're constantly tortured and beaten up, and you die, and you're immediately reborn again there for millions and millions of years. In fact, they say that you will be there for a parkel. So you may have heard the word kelpa, which means an eon, which does have a particular number, but a parkel is a collection of 60 eons. So we are talking about a huge amount of time of being tortured and reborn, dying and being reborn. You know, we can't even imagine how many times. In I think it's course 8 of the ACI Foundation courses, there's a discussion or an explanation of eons and collections of eons, and of how world systems like the one we live in now go through cycles of, you know, of a planet coming into existence, of beings being born there, living beings human beings go through these cycles of, they start off with having an 80,000 year lifespan, and as they do negative deeds, the lifespans of humans over time, over some long period of time, start to shrink, and they shrink down to 10 years, and then they grow back up again. So there's this cycle of the lifespan of human beings growing and shrinking. So that's something to look forward to in course 8. So the kind of person, again, focusing on creating a schism amongst the Sangha, the ordained monks. This has to be done when a Buddha is living on the planet. So we cannot do this particular misdeed. But because there are future lives, it's good to plant a seed in your mind about knowing that should you find yourself in some future life with a Buddha on the planet, then you may remember the seed may ripen into an understanding. So this is an event that happens in every world cycle in which a Buddha appears, in which a Buddha is born. So there is amongst the community of monks a monk who incites this split of the community of monks. He's a full monk. He's a gelong. Secondly, he has good morality. He keeps his morality very well. Third, he's very intelligent. Remember we talked last time of those who lean towards intelligence and those who lean towards sensual. He leans towards intelligence. He's the intelligent type. He's very charismatic. He knows all the teachings and can teach them perfectly. So he has a very good reputation. But then he does something really stupid. He comes up with a list of 5 things that he says people need to do in order to reach nirvana. And they're kind of weird things like you can't eat yogurt or you won't be able to reach enlightenment and nirvana. You can't eat meat. You can't wear robes with patches on them and other things like this. Just things that have really nothing to do with, that collection of virtue we're creating in order to reach nirvana, right? So he says these things, and it causes a schism in the community, and some monks break off from the rest and go with him. Now there are, along with there being a living Buddha on the planet, there are other, let's see, how many are there? There's 6 other conditions about when it can occur, the periods in which, actually when it cannot occur, the periods in which you cannot create this schism. So the first, and I'm giving the Tibetan here again, Geshe Michael did not give the Tibetan when he taught it, so I'm including it for those of you who are doing your homework in Tibetan. If there's not one now, maybe you'll do it again in the future. But the first one is not at the beginning of the wheel. And what this means is not when the Buddha first starts teaching. During the first 12 years of the Buddha's teaching career, everyone is very happy and engaged with the teachings. And so there's this special camaraderie or unity with the group of monks who are attending his teachings. And this is, we have in our experience of coming into contact with the Buddha's teachings, it's sort of the same thing. At the beginning, we're very interested and very keen. But if we don't practice it, the teachings can get stale for us, not as fresh. There's a metaphor that is used in scripture called butter on leather. And apparently, people would use butter to keep their leather pouches supple so they wouldn't crack and break. So they would butter their leather. But if you try and butter it too much, the leather becomes saturated and it can't absorb anymore. So in the same way, if we're into just applying butter, if we're just into going to teachings and collecting more and more teachings without putting them into practice, without allowing them into our hearts and using them in our day-to-day life, we are at risk of being like leather that is saturated and can't take in anymore. So anyway, it cannot happen right at the beginning period of when the Buddha starts teaching. Similarly, here again, just the Tibetan, it cannot happen towards the end of his life when he reaches his final nirvana, his parinirvana. And what parinirvana means, it's not that, sometimes it's used to say he died, but what it refers to is that his emanation on this planet is withdrawn. That emanation of his form body is withdrawn from the world. And this happens when the karma that people have to experience a Buddha, to experience the manifestation of Buddha's form, die out. And so there's no one left on the planet who has the karma to see a Buddha. And so the body, that emanation of the Buddha's body is withdrawn. And so at that time, as his life of his form body here on the planet is coming to an end, people tend to be quite attentive and put teachings into practice. I mean, I think we can see this ourselves. If you are a student of Geshe Michael, he has been telling us for some time that he will not be around much longer. And I see that people are very serious about their practice now, which is good for us to be serious about our practice. And it's good for us as fellow students to help each other with our practice. The third period of time when the schism occurs is called, it's this long phrase here, Tempala Tawa Dang Sultram Ki Kun Ma Jongwar. It can't happen until there are faults in the teachings, in terms of the followers, not in terms of the teaching, but in terms of the followers and their morality. They're not keeping their morality well, and they're introducing their own ideas into the teachings. The fourth one is Choksung Chik Gingarol Du. And what this refers to, it's called not until the appearance of the great pair. The great pair, that refers to two of the Buddhist disciples. And in every world system in which a Buddha appears, there will be, at some point after 12 years, there will be two monks, one named Shariputra and one named Maudgalyayana. One of these two monks, who both of them are very close students of the Buddha, one of the two of them will heal the rift, heal the schism that is between the community of monks and bring the community back together. So this schism, this break in the community, only lasts for 24 hours. One of the two of these great pair monks, Shariputra or Maudgalyayana, brings the community of monks back together. The fifth is Tupa Nyengenle Depa Oktu. This means that it cannot occur after the Buddha has withdrawn his emanation from the planet, after the Buddha's parinirvana. And they say this is because the monks are very upset that the Buddha has withdrawn his emanation, has passed on. And then the sixth one is called Samche Chung Machepa Daktu, which means that it doesn't happen until the monks are living in separate residences. And so you'll see more description of these in your reading. But this gives you an idea that it's a very specific activity that occurs once in every world system in which a Buddha has appeared. So we can have some relief that it is impossible for us to do this immediate misdeed. But if we think about karma and actions and powerful actions in terms of concentric circles, right? A smaller circle in the middle being the most powerful karma, and then a circle around it in which activities that are kind of related to, but not quite as bad as the middle of the circle, and so on as we go out. It is possible for us to create division in a Dharma community. So not monks or nuns, not, or it could be monks or nuns, but amongst the group of students that you are studying with, and you try and divide people and break them up. Geshe Michael says that it's when we're practicing the Dharma and the Buddhist teachings, and we're being very sincere, and we are having we're planting a lot of good seeds. We attract demons, a special kind of beings who try and disrupt our practice, try to keep us from practicing. If we think about the Christian mythologies of there being a devil and demons of the devil try and keep people from doing good. So it's kind of a similar sort of thing. Of these demons try to keep us, they try to obstruct us or disrupt us from doing good. So knowing that it's possible, and it's almost like a human psychology of group behavior, of when there's a group of people who are very harmonious and very supportive of each other, it's likely it's not for certain, but it's likely that someone will try and break people up, try and be a troublemaker in the group. So just be aware that that's a possibility, and don't give into it. Don't give it. We have this phrase in English: don't give it air. Don't allow it to breathe. Don't allow it to continue to live. Avoid saying negative things about your fellow practitioners of these teachings. It's really quite extraordinary that we have a community of people who take these teachings to heart, who practice them and want to become the highest kind of person that they can become. Someone who is constantly thinking of benefiting others, someone who sees reality correctly, clearly, sees that things come from them and not coming at them, sees that they have the power to change their experience and to help others change their experience as well and get out of suffering. That we are very rare. And the connection that we can have between us can be really super supportive in our practice when times get tough. It's so helpful to be able to call on friends in the Dharma. And so anything that would try and split people up or, talk negatively about some people and some characteristic or behavior about them that you don't like or someone doesn't like, that's not going to serve any good purpose by doing so. So just use care in your thoughts and your words and your actions about other students. Does that mean that if someone appears to you to be breaking their vows right and left, bringing harm to people, that you should support them? If someone is disrupting the community by breaking their vows, at least for monastics, in the monastic community, there's a vow to remove them from the community. You help them, you point out the issue, you try and help them stop doing that kind of thing. And if they sincerely want to stop, then you continue to help them. If they're like, I don't care anymore, I'm going to go around, I'm going to take up hunting, and there's nothing wrong with killing my animals for my dinner. No, that's not, that would be breaking a vow, and that would negatively influence other people in the community of monks. So they are, after trying to work with them, they are asked to leave the community. So in the same way, if there's someone who is really harming the community, it may be best, after trying to work with them on how to apply the teachings in their life, of how to overcome proclivities to doing actions that harm other people. If the person is really not interested in changing, then it may be best to ask them to leave and not come back. It's very hard, it's very challenging, because we don't want to give up on anybody. Everyone has the potential to put these teachings into practice and change their behavior to improve their lives so that they can get out of suffering. And we do tend to lean more toward helping others do that than we do to saying, no, you're acting inappropriately, so leave. But someone who is acting that way, someone who appears to you to be behaving in a way that is opposed to the Buddhist teachings, best to stay away from them. If you're not amongst the administration of the Dharma Center, then it's not your responsibility to ask them to leave. It's your responsibility to stay away, have some distance between you and them. Also, to refrain from thinking negatively about them, from judging them. Switch your thought from, oh, they're such a bad practitioner, they're such a bad Buddhist. Instead of thinking that, think, those are kinds of behaviors that I know will bring harm, and I really am sad that this person appears to be creating this kind of negativity. I hope that I never myself start acting that way. You know what? And also with the wisdom to know that you are experiencing someone acting that way because you planted those kinds of seeds in the past. They're ripening into the experience of this other person. So you know that the best place to work when you see someone behaving badly is to work on your own practice, to work with your own mind, your own life. This breaking of the Buddhist, of the community of monks, is also called breaking of the wheel. And it means breaking the wheel of Dharma. In the, especially in the Abhidharma system, the wheel of the Dharma is the understanding of selflessness. When this schism occurs, you know, with the community of monks around an actual Buddha living on this planet, when that schism occurs, for that 24 hours, no one can perceive emptiness directly. No one can have a direct perception of emptiness. That the distraction, I'm sorry, the disruption of that community, that schism, that break, is so powerful that its energy is like rippling out. No one can meditate. People can't study very well. Their minds become agitated. No one has any realizations. You know, forget dependent or seeing emptiness directly. There's no realization of dependent origination. There's no realization of renunciation. There's no realization of bodhicitta, or the wish to become enlightened to benefit others. It's such a powerfully negative act that it affects everyone on the planet. So it's called breaking the wheel of the teachings. Now, back to the five. Why are these deeds so bad that they project you into a life in the hell realm in your very next life? There's two, we can group these into two. The first group we'll call Pempe Shi. Say Pempe Shi. Pempa, sorry, means assistance or help. And Shi, as we had before when we talked about how to make a full path karma, that there's an object. So here it's our object, someone who helped us. Pempe Shi, object of assistance. And in the group of five, they put the killing of the mother and the killing of the father, the object in those two actions, mother and father, are objects of assistance. They and the assistance that they gave us is they gave us life. they gave us the kind of life, a human life, that is necessary in order to practice the Buddhist teachings and attain realizations and get the heck out of samsara. There's no other type of life form from which we could do that. It's only being born as a human that we can practice the Dharma and achieve the results of getting out of samsara, out of the cycle of suffering. So our parents, even if they were not so good parents, even if they, were really bad, even if they abandoned us, even if they beat us, even if, we see terrible stories of children who are like locked in closets and chains sometimes, even if they did that. And then this explains too why the mother is identified as the one who conceived you, the one whose egg was used. She was an instrumental person to give you this life as a human. Then there are, let's see, where's the other one? Oh, there's two ways. When we do the act of these immediate misdeeds, there are two attitudes or thoughts that are going on when we do the killing or making the schism or having the evil intention of drawing blood from a Buddha. There are two different attitudes. One is a rejection of them, like mentally, before we create the schism or throw the boulder or kill an arhat or kill our mother or father, we reject them. Mentally, we're not only rejecting them, but we're rejecting the idea of our very own Buddhahood, eventual Buddhahood. It's a rejection of the benefit they have given us. It's an attitude of rejection. And then the second is elimination. We actually take the steps to do the act of killing or of drawing blood or of creating the schism. So rejection and elimination. Okay, so we've got our group of people who have given us benefit, are objects of assistance. The second group is called Yunten Gishi. Yunten means good spiritual qualities, like extraordinary spiritual qualities. And she, again, is object. So an object that has extraordinary spiritual qualities. So here we're talking about an arhat, one who has removed their negative emotions. we're talking about a Buddha, one who has the extraordinary spiritual qualities of being completely awake, omniscient. And then the spiritual community. Now, when they talk about the spiritual community, remember they talked about it as the wheel of Dharma. So the two of the Buddha and the spiritual community, the Buddha is the form body of a Buddha. The Sangha is the Dharma body of a Buddha, is the omniscience and wisdom and emptiness of a Buddha. So, creating a schism in the Dharma body as it has manifested on this planet is it's really a horrible act. So when we talk about the relative severity of these five, the worst of the five is creating a schism in the community of monks who are following the teachings of a Buddha. And so that's the Dharma body of Buddha. The second most severe one is trying to kill a Buddha with evil intent. Attack on the form body of an enlightened being. The third one is killing an arhat, one who has stopped all their negativities. The fourth one is killing your mother. And the fifth one is killing your father. So the order of severity is creating a schism in the community of monks, with evil intent, trying to draw blood from a Buddha, killing an arhat, killing your mother, killing your father. There are a group that are known as the near five ones. If we talk about that concentric circle. So those five are the middle of the circle. So in the next circle around it, there are these close five, these near five. And I'll just give them a list so that just so you, I don't know, to underscore this idea of the concentric circle. The first one is to, and again, this is the traditional order in which they are given, not in order of severity. The first one is to rape your mother, who is also an arhat. So rape a woman who is your mother and who is also an arhat. The second one is to kill a bodhisattva of certainty. And a bodhisattva of certainty means this person, remember that the whole, I think we've talked about this before, that the amount of time it takes to become enlightened is, we're talking millions of years of practice, right? And a bodhisattva advances through levels. There are different bodhisattva levels. The first level is when you first see emptiness directly with bodhicitta in your heart. Then you become a bodhisattva on level 1. And as you continue to practice the 6 perfections, you advance through these higher and higher levels. So a bodhisattva of certainty is not related to a particular level, but is related to, it's certain that they have, this is crazy, but they have only 100 kalpas, 100 eons left in their journey to enlightenment. So we have no idea who, we have no idea who a bodhisattva is, right? We don't know, if you're like me anyway, we don't know who might be a bodhisattva, much less a bodhisattva who's within 100 eons of becoming enlightened. So, best not kill anyone. The third is to kill one of the 7 high practitioners. And I'm not entirely sure who those are. The fourth is to steal the property of a monk or nun. And then the fifth is to, out of a feeling of anger or hatred, strong negative emotion, destroying images of a Buddha or a Bodhisattva, or altars, or temples. So those are the 5 near misdeeds. They will also project being born in a hell, but it may not be immediately. Probably, depending on what else you've done in your life. Probably not your next life. And the hell you're born into is a little less suffering than the hell you'd be born into if you did one of the 5 immediate misdeeds. No great comfort there. Now, we may think back. Remember when we talked about the 10 negative emotions? And we said that the most serious of them were the ones that we do mentally, right? The ones where we covet other people's belongings or attainments, or we have ill will towards someone, or we hold a wrong view. And of those 3 mental negativities, holding a wrong view is the most serious of mental negativities. Now, there's could be a question that comes up. Well, what about I mean, why are all of these five negative, these five immediate misdeeds, they're all physical, you know? The closest one to a mental one is causing a schism in the Dharma. But that's still it's speech. It's sharing this list of five things to attain nirvana that aren't true. It's encouraging monks to leave the Buddha and come follow you. Um, uh, so I didn't get a very clear answer to this question. But Geshe Michael did go through and talk about there are five different there's probably a lot more than that, but there are five kinds of bad views or wrong views. So we'll go through those five. Just very quickly. The first one is called Tanzin Gitawa, and that means to believe that everything exists the way it appears to you to exist. Now, things do appear that way. Things, if you're not a Buddha, things do appear to you to exist from their own side. We know that someone who has seen emptiness directly, an Arya, is not fooled by that, right? They see things as coming from their own side, but they have no doubt that is mistaken. And we talked last time, I believe, about once we reach the path of preparation, the second of the five paths, once we have a good, correct, clear understanding of what emptiness is, that nothing has a nature from its own side. Once we have that understanding, even though things appear to us that way, we are actively engaged with, countering that appearance. We are studying, we are meditating, we are bringing it into our lives, and not responding to anger with anger, for example. We are actively working with this idea that things are not coming from their own side. So even though things are appearing that way, it's not as negative as for someone who doesn't know anything about emptiness, for example, who just, sees things as other people's fault, not their own fault. Okay. Another one is Jigsoklatawa. And that is related to they call it the view of the perishable assembly, which just means that you're focusing on me, the me, and mine, what's mine, as being self-existent. So it's just a little more clearly defined as compared with the first one. The next one, it's Sulchum to Shukchok Zin Gitawa. And this means This means to consider practices of aestheticism, of like thinking that comforts are a bad thing in and of themselves, like aesthetics will. You can still see some people in India who have a practice of aestheticism where they only have one little cloth that they wear over their to cover their genitals, but they don't wear clothes, they don't wear shoes, you know, they won't, they don't own anything. If someone were to offer them food, they might eat a little, but they're really not, they're into like starving themselves and sometimes harming themselves. Not so much people in India. I don't see that directly, although there are some practices they talk about from old times where people would harm themselves, like jumping on spears and so on, as a way to reach enlightenment. But so these wrong ideas of what's required to get out of the circle of suffering. Like, for example, there is some idea that when you go on retreat, on a meditation retreat, that you need to be totally divorced from, separated from all comfort, that you don't need to eat food that you like. You just need to eat food that will sustain your body. You don't need to be comfortable. You don't need to be happy. In Geshe Michael's tradition, and he's not the only one who does this, but it's to be just as comfortable as you need to be in order to stay there in retreat for the period of time that you're going to stay there. We should be in retreat, especially. We should not be depriving ourselves such that becomes the focus of our attention. Oh, I'm starving, I only brought food for me to eat once a day. And then we're hungry the rest of the time. We're not going to be able to meditate very well. So have the food you need. Have the food that allows you to focus your mind where you want to focus it, on your object of meditation. Don't sleep on the floor because you think that that's what you need to do, unless it's comfortable for you. But if it's not comfortable for you, harming your body, making it sore the next day, you're not going to be able to focus your mind on your object of meditation. You're going to be thinking about your sore back. So we need to be intelligent about our practice. We don't need to splurge on things. We don't need to be wasteful or extravagant. But we should be happy and content. And what that means for each one of us is something different. And then we have Tawa Chunzin, which means to think that your wrong views are the best. I have the best views, That's another kind of wrong view. And then the last one is the one that we're more familiar with, and that's Loktawa, the classic wrong view, where we say that things that do exist don't, or things that don't exist do. So, classic example is thinking that karma does not exist. If I think uh, badly about one of my fellow Dharma students. And I just think it in my mind, in my room, in my home. No one knows, so it's okay. That won't have any negative effect on me in the future. Like, no, it's not true. It's not true. So that's all the material that Geshe Michael shared in this class. And what um, I just wanted to get a sense from you about, do you want to take this time we have left to talk about questions? Or should I give a brief overview of the practice of purification, of how you can, they call it purify, but you're basically reducing the effects of negative karma. So I'll leave it to you of what you'd like to do. How do people in the form realm collect white karma? Well, that's a really good question. So in the form realm, if you yeah, I actually I mean, in the form realm, you are meditating a lot, but they do say that your life in the form realm uses up all your good karma, and you fall to the hell realms after that birth. So I don't know how to answer that. I'm sorry. Any other questions that I can or cannot answer? Okay. I don't think I can cover the practice of purification in the little time that we have left. So let us, well, you'll find in the materials once they get posted that I have shared with you a couple of documents, and they're, unfortunately, I'm sorry, they're in English. One is called a general confession, and it's a prayer. Monks and nuns do this prayer every 2 weeks when they meet for what's called sojong, which is a confession, a practice of collecting good karma and clearing away negativities. And so we do this prayer that basically covers like all the different kinds of negative actions we could possibly do, and confesses them so that we can purify them. And then the other document is called the book, which is the practice, yeah, it would be nice to do it together. We'll see how, we only have one more class, so we'll see how that goes. And it would be nice if we could do it together. But this other document, it's called the book. And Geshe Michael talks about this a lot. But if you're not familiar, it's it's a practice where 6 times a day you stop what you're doing and you contemplate, like, well, let's just start at the beginning of the day. You have this little book and you write down either six of your most powerful negative actions that you do that are a habit for you. And you write them down in your little book, and you put a plus sign and a negative sign under each one, leaving some space you can write. And then what you do is every couple of hours, so 6 times a day, every 2.5 hours or so, you stop what you're doing, and you think about that negative action, and you look over the preceding time and think, have I done this negative thing? What exactly did I do? And you write down what you did. And then the plus sign is to write down times where you stopped yourself from doing that negative thing. You stopped yourself from creating negative karma, which in itself is a very positive karma. You could also talk about positive seeds you planted that are related to somehow that negative action you're trying to keep yourself from doing. Now, even just the process of writing these things down has an effect of, I don't know, it's sort of like a magic thing. It's bringing it to your mind. And by doing so and just writing down what happened, it can have the effect of reducing the number of negativities you do just by watching. So at the end of the day, you look over your collection of writings and you you rejoice about all the good things you did, and you have regret for all the negative things you did, and you go through the purification practice, which there are 4 forces, and I don't have time to go through them, but hopefully next time we will. But anyway, so you do that every day. So you stop 6 times a day and look at your mind and look at your behavior over the past couple of hours. And it can be very, very beneficial for your practice. Yeah. Okay. So you'll see, if you can read English, hopefully you can understand it. If you can't, we could try and see if this has been translated into other languages and get that to you. But so in the meantime, until we talk about purification more in depth and what those 4 forces are, you at least have something to play with. So, so now if you could please think about our being together over the past hour and a half, and think about the actions, the seeds you've planted in being here in class, in contemplating these ideas, so that we can dedicate our powerful actions together towards our highest goal. Ewadi kewoku sunam yeshe toksokshin sunam yeshe lejunwe dampa kumi topasho. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you to live translators for your extraordinary magical work. Thank you to the tech team for making this possible. Thank you to everything and everyone who made it possible for us to be here together. And thank you especially, Geshe Michael, for creating these courses. And I'll see you on, oh, sorry, I went over by a minute. Oh, I'm so sorry. So I will see you next Wednesday for our last class. Have a wonderful weekend. And I'll see you then.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, teacher. Goodbye.
Thank you so much, teacher.
Thank you so much, teacher.